This week we're reading Living in Mexico by Chole Perkins. Nonfiction books and passages are often more difficult for young readers to comprehend or understand. This is often because nonfiction text appears easier than it is. Take this week's book for example. It looks like a cartoon and for many may seem like an easier read fluency-wise, meaning the words across the page are a little bit bigger and easier to read. But when you dig a little bit deeper, this is actually very complicated text. We make sure that we understand the book by stopping after each page to think about the main idea and at each different text feature to actually learn from it. So for example, we have the glossary at the beginning of the book, which is unusual because they're usually at the end of the book. This is telling me that I should read this first in order to understand what's going to happen in the rest of the book. So we have words, I'll let you read them on your own, but I'll read them out loud to you, the actual words themselves. Aztecs, BCE, CE, colony, conquer, folk art, Mayans, Olmecs, peninsula, plateau, pyramid, temple. So make sure that you actually read these words before you read the book. And then it also says a note to readers, some of these words may have more than one definition. The definitions above are how these words are used in the book. Remember, words have multiple meanings. These are the specific meanings they want you to know for this book. Let's begin reading. Hola! That means hi in Spanish. My name is Rosa, and I live in Mexico. Mexico is a country in North America where more than 120 million people live, including me. So, this book is tricky because it is written as a narrative, meaning somebody's story, but it's actually a nonfiction text because it is teaching you about a topic. This genre is called literary nonfiction. So when I read literary nonfiction, it's told as if it's a story, but it's actually teaching me about a topic. And in this case, my topic is Mexico. So I need to write that next to my T. And when I'm doing nonfiction text, I circle my N and I circle my I for my author's purpose because the author's purpose is to inform me. So now I know my author is trying to teach me or inform me about Mexico. Let's keep reading. Mexico is a beautiful country. Many people come here to visit the pretty beaches and deserts or to hike in the rainforest and mountains. So I pause and I stop before going on to the next page. I need to think about what the author's trying to teach me right here. Well, they're telling me that Mexico is a beautiful country and that a lot of people like to visit it. Then I need to pause and actually look at the map. So I'm seeing the country here, and they have the cities marked with these little red dots and their names next to him. So there's Monterrey, Guadalajara, Mexico City, Acapulco. So they're naming all of the cities for me, but then they're also giving me little zoom in pictures of the different parts of the country. So down in this area, it looks like maybe they have some mountains near, like on the outside of Mexico City and north of Acapulco. Or up closer here towards the border area, it looks like maybe there's deserts. Oh, now over here is pointing to the beach area. And wow, there's a rainforest. Look at how many different types of ecosystems or areas there are in this one country. How interesting. I learned that just by looking at the illustrations that are attached to the map. Let's keep reading. The weather in Mexico is very different from place to place. Near the ocean and rainforest, the weather is hot and humid. In the mountains and on the plateau, the weather is dry and mild. Mexico has two big deserts in the north. The deserts are home to many plants and animals, such as roadrunners, mountain lions, and cactuses that grow up to 60 feet tall. So here I can see the roadrunner, mountain lion, and here's the cactus that can go to 60 feet tall, and they're showing me with the girl on her little ladder measuring it. Two mountain ranges run down Mexico's east and west sides. Between the mountains is the Mexican plateau. Many people live on the plateau. So they're showing me this plateau, and there's actually a city there. Mexico's capital, Mexico City, is on the plateau. It was built on the top of an ancient city, Guadalajara. Now, when you see it in parentheses like this and kind of spelled out phonetically, is what you would call that, they're teaching you how to say the word Gua, da, la, ha, ra. Guadalajara. Guadalajara holds a yearly festival for a special kind of Mexican music called mariachi. See? Mariachi. So, in case you ever come across a word that has the parentheses, that's them showing you how to sound it out. Now, I have an illustration up here showing me what Mexico City looks like, and an illustration on the bottom showing me what Guadalajara looks like. Let's go over here and learn about these cities. Cancun has some of the best beaches in the world. Oaxaca is home to colorful festivals and folk art. So in the top is an illustration of Cancun, and on the bottom is an illustration of Oaxaca. I live in La Paz, a city on the Baja California Peninsula of Mexico. I live with my mom, dad, brother, and sister. So here's the little peninsula of La Paz. I know that because there's a map here. And they have an illustration of her family. Remember, this is a literary nonfiction. They're teaching you about a topic through a story. So the story is about this girl and her family. My parents work for a sailing company. They take people on sailboats to see the gray whales. I love watching the whales. I want to study the whales when I grow up. Every morning, I get ready for school. I brush my teeth and put on my school uniform. Then I comb my hair neatly. In Mexico, it's important to look neat and clean for school. For breakfast, we eat fried eggs, beans, and sauce on a tortilla. A tortilla is a round, flat piece of bread. So there's an illustration of her eating her breakfast with her family, and over here, her getting ready for school. After breakfast, my mom and dad drive me to school. My brother and sister go to a school for younger kids. I put my things away and talk to my friends about our reports. We are learning about archaeology, which is the study of ancient cultures. There are many places in Mexico where the remains of ancient cities still stand. School starts at 8 o'clock each morning. The first half of the day is taught in Spanish. After snack time, we are taught in English. I speak both languages, and they're showing me that here. In the morning with the clock, it says hola. And then in the afternoon, it shows this afternoon the clock, and it says hello. Our first lesson in Spanish is about Mexico's history. 10,000 years ago, people in the region started coming together to farm the land. So they're going to stop. The author is putting in a history about Mexico here within the story of this little girl going to school. So it's your job as a good reader right now to realize that you're actually learning about the history of this country. It's not just a part of the story. This is important information to pause and think about. Well, 10,000 years ago, people started coming together to farm the land. That is a significant amount of history to learn about here. In 1500 BCE, the Olmec people began growing many things that we have today, such as corn, beans, and cotton. Around 600 BC, the Olmec split into different groups, one of which was the Mayans. Between 1325 CE and 1519 CE, the Aztec people conquered many groups and brought them together. The Aztecs built pyramids and temples, created jewelry and art, and lived in huge cities. So they just told me all of these different events that happened on the timeline of this country coming together and forming. They're also providing illustrations to show me these people growing their food, different kinds of foods, and they're also showing me how the Aztecs began, and I know that because I recognize these pyramids in the background. In 1519 CE, Hernán Cortés, a European explorer, was sent to claim the Aztecs' land for Spain. In 1521, he succeeded. The Spanish conquered more and more people and took their land. They called the colony New Spain. Spain ruled for almost 300 years, but the people of New Spain wanted their own country. They wanted to be free. They fought many battles with Spain. The people won their freedom in 1821, and New Spain became Mexico. And now we're back to the narrative story of this little girl being in school. After our history lesson, we have a snack. Today's snack is juicy pineapple sprinkled with chili powder and lime juice. Sounds good. After we clean up, we start our math lesson in English. Wow, that sounds really difficult to learn math in a foreign language. I'm impressed. I really like math. Look, I got a 10 on my math test. In Mexico, we are graded with numbers instead of letters. A 10 is the best score you can get. We have geography and science lessons, and then school is over at 2 o'clock. My family picks me up for lunch. In Mexico, lunch is the most important meal of the day. My parents have a break from work to eat. For lunch, we are eating quesadillas. Quesadillas are like a sandwich. Cheese, beans, and chicken go on top of a tortilla. Then you put another tortilla on top and cook it. As we eat, we talk about our day. So here's that narrative story, the fictional story about a girl and her family. After lunch, my brother, sister, and I go to our after-school programs. In Mexico, many kids attend after-school programs while their parents work. My little brother and sister play soccer. I take a special art class for older kids. We're learning about Diego Rivera and Frida Kahlo, two famous Mexican artists from the 1900s. Pause there, guys. Now she's teaching you about the famous artist from this country. So you've learned a history lesson about how the country was formed, and now you're learning about some of the most noteworthy or famous artists from this country. Let's read that again and really pay attention. I take a special art class for older kids. We're learning about Diego Rivera and Frida Kahlo, two famous Mexican artists from the 1900s. Our parents pick us up when their work is over and we go home. So now I know. There's Diego Rivera and Frida Kahlo, and they were famous Mexican artists from the 1900s. If I was just reading this like a story, trying to pay attention to characters, I wouldn't have caught that information. Good readers, slow down and pay attention for nonfiction texts. In Mexico, we have a holiday in November called the Day of the Dead. We celebrate the lives of family and friends who have died. There are big parades and celebrations. So now she's telling you about a event or holiday that is special to this country, meaning it doesn't happen all over the world. She's teaching you something specific to her country. I help my mom make a special bread. We will eat it at the parade tomorrow. My brother and sister put up pretty paper banners to decorate the house for the holiday. And it shows you illustrations of these things. Pay attention to those. Very important. Dinner time. In Mexico, dinner is usually a light meal. Tonight, we're having chilled avocado soup. Before bed, I read my book about whales, fish, and dolphins around the world. Someday, I'm going to sail to different countries and see them. Would you like to visit Mexico someday? And in the back, there's a little fact page all about Mexico. Name, United Mexican States, or Mexico is for short. Population, 122 million. Capital, Mexico City. Language, primarily Spanish, though the government recognizes 68 indigenous languages, including Nahuatl, Yucatec, Mayan, and Mixtec. Total area, 758,449 square miles. Government, Federal Republic. Currency is the peso. Fun fact, chocolate originated in Mexico roughly 4,000 years ago. Starting around 1900 BCE, ancient people living in Mexico ground cacao beans down and added them to a mix of vanilla, honey, chili peppers, and water. The result was the first hot chocolate, a special drink reserved for rulers, wealthy nobles, and warriors. Flag, 3 equal-sized vertical stripes of green, white, and red. Mexico's coat of arms, an eagle with a snake in its mouth standing on a cactus appears in the center, which they showed me an illustration of this flag up here. So readers, remember, we take our time and read nonfiction text. We don't just zoom through like a fiction text. We stop, we think about the topic, that the author is trying to teach us about, and we pause next to text features, thinking about what they teach us.